Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trap Chat. We are having another edition of Trailblazing Footprints, writing Black history today. I have a phenomenal guest today. She is the founder and CEO of Answer the Moment LLC. We're going to get deep into that. A Chicagoland multi hyphenate, founder, strategist, coach, storyteller, movement maker, speaker, mentor, writer. And when I say writer, I mean author. Here's her book.
Love it.
A DEI leader, Masora, a DST lover of butterflies and sunflowers, an early riser. And I'm not even going to tell you what time she gets up. A proud mother of two amazing teenagers. And one of the things that really was hey, okay, honorary Wheaties box champion. And you see it in the back. Help me welcome Khalilah Shakir Lyons.
Oh, Sora, what an incredible opening. Thank you so much. And I have to say, because someone's like, oh, did you get, that's not from the mall. No, that's actually from General Mills. That's a Wheaties box from
Correct.
General Mills. I did not go make my own. And I do want to just amplify while I'm in the Chicagoland area. I am originally from East St. Louis, always proud to put that out there as well.
Okay. Yes. All right. So, Khalilah, we got a lot to talk about today. Let's start at the beginning. Please share your career journey from corporate HR to founder and CEO of Answer the Moment.
Yes, and it's been quite a journey when I think about my 20 plus years of going across different industries, working in so many different types of spaces. But no matter the industry, manufacturing, service center, corporate, I even had a stint in a luxury pet resort at one point. I was spending my time as a strategic HR business partner, helping leaders with their talent strategies and what that meant for cultivating these cultures of inclusion and belonging. And obviously 20 plus years, I wasn't always using that term, but that's exactly what I was doing and partnering with them. And love the work, love working with leaders, love working with people, having these conversations and challenging in the way I was able to, but started to feel the constraints of corporate America, the systemic barriers that happen, the slow moving change that can come with corporate America. And really, and you can see it in my resume, because I wasn't really anywhere more than 2 years, except for one organization, right? So just me understanding and finally realizing that I wanted to do more. I had more of my truth I wanted to give, more impact that I wanted to have in this space, in the conversations with leaders, with employees. And so in 2021, when we were still deep in COVID, I decided to leave corporate America and start Answer the Moment, which for even myself was, how am I going to answer this moment that I'm finding myself in, and positioning myself to work with organizations and work with leaders and how they are creating cultures of empowerment, what that looks like through coaching them, what it looks like in empowering them with leadership practices, and really focusing on culture transformation. So that's been kind of my journey. And again, not so much escaping corporate America, but just in my journey of transformation, what was going to be that next step for me.
Yeah, let's stay there, because you do have a coaching approach that encourages leaders to authentically answer the moment. Yes. What advice would you give to Black leaders striving to navigate the challenges, some of which you just touched on, while making a lasting impact?
When I think about especially Black leaders, and I want to say too, because sometimes I think we have an image of what leadership means. So Black leaders at every level, from my daughter at 13 or young girls younger to leaders that are CEOs in an organization, it's redefining, because sometimes I feel like we stay in this space, redefining Black leadership is not just what it's been for us to survive in corporate America or the spaces that we've been in, but what it's meant for us as leaders to redefine the spaces that we're in. So as you're moving in your leadership, don't just think about how am I going to survive, but how am I going to redefine this? I think just as Black people, we naturally do that. And so don't just approach your leadership role as navigating the system, but how can you reimagine the system and break barriers and bring new standards, because you're coming in as you are in your authenticity and being genuinely comfortable with who you are. You are the standard. So set that standard, own that standard, and redefine the space.
I love that. You are the standard.
That is one of my principles that comes with my work. I don't know if it's in this book, but it will be in a book. I remind people all the time, you are the standard. Yes.
Yes. And speaking of being a standard, you have a career, a resume filled with impressive accolades and impactful partnerships. Is there any accomplishment that stands out as a defining moment in your journey?
It does. And as I was thinking about this, and it goes back to how I think about my work of, do I have something significant, like really big that I want to share, or something that's more subtle? So being me, I wanted to make sure I focused on something that was subtle, but actually a significant moment, and what that meant for me in my own Black history. And it got me just thinking too about Black history isn't just about what we find in textbooks, but how we're using our space to amplify voices and make new things visible, right? That's a critical part. And so what came to mind was a moment I had early in my career where I was starting to focus more on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was at the table with a senior leadership team for information technology. And they had their goal of increasing women. And so they felt they were about diversity, about inclusion, about that life. And so I'm in the room. I was invited to speak to them about inclusion, and they were gently pushing back. We don't really need you to have this conversation, Khalilah. We got our goals. We're good to go. And I said, okay, just answer one question for me. As you envision this woman that you want to hire, who comes to mind? And this was a table of leaders of all white men and one white woman. And so everybody's describing their ideal candidate, no hesitation, no struggle. This is what this person's going to bring, yada, yada. And so I followed up with, perfect. Does anyone have an image of a Black woman? Oh, no. Okay. Does anyone have a picture of someone you might consider overweight? No. Okay. Anyone over 50? No. And so, not a single hand went up. It was silence. And this wasn't, in that moment, me realizing no one was being intentionally exclusive. There wasn't blatant bias happening, but it was showing the quiet power of our defaults that we can go to in our minds, right? And how that can then impact who we're connecting with, because our brain is already programming this archetype of success. And unconsciously, we're like, this person in and this person isn't. And from my own experience working with leaders, it impacts who gets more probing, whose story we want to hear, how we're connecting. So it was just a really powerful, defining moment, not just for them, definitely of like, okay, yes, we do need you at the table because we know we have this goal, but how does that impact how we're connecting with people? But it was really a defining moment for me, because it helped me realize that when we think about history, whether it's showing up in corporate America and how we're changing history, or just Black history overall, not just thinking about the past, but what are we doing to disrupt the moments now? And what are the small ways, what are the powerful questions that we need to be asking that we haven't asked before, to create and expand our narratives? And it's guided a lot of my approach to how I'm working with leaders, how I'm working with clients, and in getting them to be historically honest with why they think the way they think. So that was a very defining moment for me, and is, again, led how I approach my consulting, how I coach and have conversations.
Yeah, so I love that you're talking about DEI, and then just one of, I'm sure, many experiences. And we all know of all the rollbacks, pushbacks, rejections, whatever word we want to use to describe people saying that is not something we're bought into. So given that how do you envision yourself, and even envision yourself encouraging others to integrate DEI practices into their leadership strategies so that we can foster innovation and resilience, especially for historically excluded communities?
Yeah, especially it goes back to, I feel like, conversations we need to just always have around understanding who we're working with, right? Like that, when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, it's three separate values that we all need to bring to the table. No matter who's at the table, how do I understand you so I can ensure that I'm empowering you? And from a business perspective, so we can have the business impact that we want to have. So I've never seen diversity, equity, inclusion in this box of making sure we're following trends or responding to external conversations or external pressures. That's part of it, and it comes with the territory. But for me, when I think about it and how we continue to integrate and make sure we're focused on underrepresented, underestimated even communities, is how are we creating cultures of empowerment that are sustainable, values driven, and rooted in our practices of everyday leadership. And again, thinking about everyone in the organization as a leader and what they lead when they're showing up in their purpose, and what that is for the well-being. So not DEI as a corporate initiative that can be rebranded, relaunched, scaled back, like you said, roll back all the things that are happening now. But when we see it as an enabler to the mission, to the greater collective, an enabler for the individuals, even in how they're showing up, it makes it easier and obvious of how it needs to be practiced at every level in everything that we do all the time, every time. It's not just about compliance or obligation. Again, this is about connection and understanding who we are to do what we need to do. So that's how I approach it, really getting centered on empowerment and what it is to be an enabler, versus it feeling like an obligation or a program. I start a lot of my sessions with, here's what DEI is not. And always at the top of the list is DEI is not a program.
Yeah. I love that. I did a series in 2023 asking the question of various DEI professionals, so, they had jobs, there was attorneys and, someone who was a recruiter, but also neurodivergent, someone in technology. So we were talking about like ethical AI and using technology ethically, another former recruiter, but also DEI strategist. So, we were talking about that, and I posed the question, is DEI dead? And then fast forward, the next, because I saw this coming. Like, I'm just going to be keep it 100. Like, I knew this was coming. Yeah.
That's part two of this conversation, because we could stay right there too, right?
Well, we're not going to stay here. We're not going to belabor it, but it needs to be said. And then I was on a webinar, and they asked that question again, and some had said on mine, like, no, it's not. Someone said it's on life support, and my response, my answer to my own question was it ever alive? Really?
So that's so layered. That gets to like all the yes ands, right? When I talk about too with this work, and this is a term I learned in a program I went through years ago, of it being wicked work versus tame work. And tame work is like your finance, your technology. We know it's one solution. Everybody has the same perspective of that solution. We solve it, we're done. Whereas this work is so many different perspectives coming. There's so much ambiguity. And there's so many even different solutions. So when I hear you ask that question, I'm thinking, and then the question was it ever alive? It's where you go with that conversation, right? Because on the one hand, yes, and in some spaces it was alive, well, and performative, right? And then in other spaces, I think we're seeing we might have felt alive in it, but we never really owned it, right? We felt alive, but were we really living in the way we needed to live? So there's a lot there. And I think also, as all of this is processing based on what you just said, it was never really probably alive in the way we needed it to be. And now is the time to reimagine what it means, again, not to have a program, but what does it mean to truly live the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and even speak to it from that way? Because again, peeling it all back, this is just understanding the people before you and what are the different tools and practices to ensure that I'm connecting so that we can have the innovation, so that we can have the collaboration, and we can have significant impact on the collective. So
yeah. I love it. Thank
you.
Okay. I wouldn't belabor it because I can. So I'm
me too.
I'm going to move on to something a little bit more exciting,
okay.
a little more fun. Topic a little more fun.
Depending on who you ask, right?
Well, for everybody besides us,
right?
And people like us, because most people are like,
people like us.
I don't care. Like, I'm tired. I don't care. All right. I want to talk about your branding because you do prominently feature sunflowers and butterflies. Those are symbols of growth, transformation, resilience, joy, loyalty, good fortune.
You did your research. Okay. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I pulled out all the things that meant something to me. This is all about me. I get to write the questions, so I get to add what I want.
It's your privilege. That's right. That's right.
So when you were thinking of your branding, and again featuring sunflowers and butterflies, how do those symbols reflect your values, and what story are you aiming to share by featuring them?
What story am I aiming to share? I'll share first the story. I won't get into the story. I'll share quickly the season it came from, which was my fertilization season, or if you're familiar with the sugar honey iced tea season, where you take the first letter of everything I just said, was that season, that show, all of that. And during that time, as I was sharing and being vulnerable with different people in my life, those two things were placed upon me as they were looking at me and seeing how I was moving through that very hard time. And I just grasped those symbols and held them tight because they are manifestations when I think about what it is to still have joy and for joy to even feel unfamiliar in different circumstances, what it is about growth and what it means to have transformation with the sunflowers and the butterflies. So with sunflowers in particular, people will see this, right? Like there's sunflowers everywhere around me, all over my home. But they're about how you're standing tall and rooted in power. And when someone said it to me specifically, she was focusing on the fact that sunflowers, even on cloudy days, will look towards the light. And sunflowers also look towards each other as a collective. And that just stayed with me because even in the darkness, we do have that ability. We do have that power within us to still look towards the light and still tap into the collective that is around us, right? That's one of the beautiful things about sunflowers and just how they take up space, right? How they stretch. And so that's something that stays with me as I stand, how I stand. And I talk a lot in my work, in my book, about our birthrights and understanding what those are. And with butterflies, transformation. Yes, that book right there. And transformation is a birthright, right? Transforming and understanding that as we transform, it can be messy. It can be painful. When you think about the butterfly, there's nothing pretty about the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. It doesn't even come out of the cocoon pretty. It's still messy and going through that. But as we go through the journey, we're strengthening our wings. So even reimagining transformation, not as a miracle that happens, but this process. And it's a process that we can all own and tap into at any moment. So those are things: taking up space, being rooted in your power, understanding your power, the journey of that, And the journey of transforming and mastering your power, evolving in your power is something I bring into my work, my coaching, my speaking. And that's what those two things really symbolize for me. And, if we had time, I could talk about different examples of just even how it's shown up in my personal, professional, all aspects of my story. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into your story because that's my last question in the main section. I love this quotation. I think I pulled it from your website.
I was like, where did she get that from? Yes.
Yes. I think I pulled it from your website. And it's, I wake up every day wanting to live fully in truth and empower the brilliance of others. Yes. I mean, this speaks volumes. And that's why I pulled it. I was like, I need that because I be reminded. Because, I love this book because it helps me to not feel bad about the way that I procrastinate and jump around. Because, and I need y'all to get this. It's called Prioritize Your Purpose Every Day. You can go to, scroll on the bottom. You can go to Khalilah.com and buy the book. Get the book. It's beautiful, but she encourages you to move around and pick something that you need to do that day. Because if you go in order, you might be like, you know what, I'm going to ease off of this, but you need to get through these 31 days and you need to do what speaks to you every single day. So
yes.
Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. So thinking about our theme, Trailblazing Footprints, Writing Black History Today, how do your personal stories and your signature talk inspire others to embrace the B list, live authentically, and contribute to shape a more honest, empowered narrative for themselves?
Yes. I just want to say really quick too, it's 31 benchmarks, but take your time with the benchmarks too. You do not have to do a benchmark a day. So that's the other beauty. If you need to stay on benchmark 13 for 13 days, please stay on benchmark 13 for 13 days. Yes. There is no rush. That's A-list, which I guess, in the name of B-list versus A-list and what that means for how I work, B-list living is how we embrace the experiences that come and that are actually for us, right? From the B list, our bumps, how we bounce and move, how we give ourselves boosts, how we're evolving our beliefs, and then what that means for how we breathe and be versus striving for this place on the A list based on our achievements, our accomplishments, and our applause, the things that can come and go. Our experiences are something that are rooted in us, imprinted in us, and then they guide us every day versus things that can be taken away. So how that impacts how I work, when I work with leaders, we're not just talking about the power and the privilege of leadership, but what does it mean to experience liberation? And what does that mean to create liberation for others? And that's part of my story as well. When I think about and reflect on how I've approached my career growth and how I guide others to approach their career growth, their growth with their culture, it's not just that those accomplishments that define your career growth, but how you're actually aligning with purpose and what that means for you and how you're being led by that. So a lot of this and what I wake up excited about with the work that I get to do is getting people to shift from how are you being confined from people's expectations, and instead, how are you showing up and being led by the impact that you want to have that day, which ultimately will lead to those outcomes and the A-list things, the achievements, the accolades. Those are great, but we need to make sure that we're leading from the actual impact. And that's benchmark number one in my book of waking up and thinking about who do I want to be today before what do I want to do? So, that's from my own personal story and experiencing liberation, even in the messiness. That's what guides a lot of what I do. And it's a different type of approach, especially when you're thinking about working with organizations and not just checking the box and getting these accomplishments and hitting these goals. But what does this mean for the experience of your people? what are you bringing as an experience of a leader, and how is that creating empowerment to do now what needs to be done?
I love it. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. You always inspire me. Like our little 10-minute conversations never last 10 minutes.
I was like, are they ever 10 minutes? I had to pause.
We try. I mean, we put time on the calendar.
We do. We do. But then somehow we luckily have buffers, right? Because we always go over.
It's deliberate. The buffer is deliberate. But yeah. So okay.
Yes.
But it has been an honor getting to know you over these past few months.
Likewise.
You were preparing for this, and just hearing you share your story, the little nuggets that you gave us. I wanted to grab my tambourine. It's too far away. I got to rearrange my desk again because I did want to play my tambourine during one of your answers, but I did not do that because I didn't want to reach. I didn't want to reach all the way over. Get it, but I'm gonna put my tambourine closer. I know now. My tambourine needs to.
We'll just do our exactly we're doing the tambourine, right?
Yes. But it is now time for the rapid fire, and this is where I get to. Well, the audience gets to learn even more about you as a person, and not just your work. Because it is Black History Month, I do want to talk about Black history and keep that theme going. So can you share a cherished Black History Month memory or tradition that shaped your understanding and appreciation of Black history and culture?
Yes. I could not believe what bubbled up first to mind. I was like, whatever comes to mind, I'm going to go with first. So it is reading, I had it written down to make sure I said it right, reading the Golden Legacies series. So this was a collection of 16 stories. They were like comic books. They were illustrated and telling significant accomplishments of Black women and men. So it was published 1966 to 1972. And you have these stories. So I would read them in my grade school, going back to Martin Van Lucas in East St. Louis, and reading these stories around Harriet Tubman, Crispus Attucks and the Minutemen, the life of Benjamin Banneker. There were stories of Black cowboys, ancient African kingdoms, and they were formatted more like a comic book. So for me as a child, instead of the textbook and it feeling like a history lesson, I'm getting these stories in a very accessible way that resonated with me. And this was something that our teachers pulled out every year in February. And it was just such a powerful memory for me and how I started tapping into and understanding these very significant people that have had an impact on our culture.
I love that. It's called, say it again, called the
Golden Legacy series. I had to Google. Series. Yes, I Googled Black historic comic books and it came right up.
Okay. I might need to get that for the younger folks in my life. So that they can take a look. You'll have to
go to eBay. They don't publish them anymore. So
or maybe it's in the library.
Might be. Yes, I hope so. They should be.
I hope so.
Get it quick.
Okay.
Right? Those might be something we have to get quick.
Oh, okay. What Black historical figure gives you a glimpse of yourself?
This is another one. So whoever comes first to mind, it was such a surprise and a delightful surprise to explore why I was thinking what I was thinking. But the first person that came to mind was actually Nikki Giovanni.
I can see it. Yes. Soror.
Soror, yes. And I would say I found her at age 11, but really how she found me. Because she gave me permission in the way she writes to not just speak and start writing in this beautiful way of prose and concise, compact ways that you find with poetry, but in a way to speak how I want it, and in a way to speak in different aspects of me too, right? Because when you think about her, she's giving us permission, at least for me, to speak in all my different tones, all the dynamic things that are a part of who makes Khalilah. So being comfortable with, when you think about her writing, she can be tender and she can be sharp, she can be radical and she can be warm, what it means for her in some of her poems to be very precise, but also having no boundaries in what she's saying. And that, I wrote my first poem at 11 after finding her in the book Black Poets. So I found her as in a compilation of books, and just using that style of writing, and again, exploring the different ways you can use that style of writing to start to capture my history, because my poems were very personal then, my imagination and what that meant for me, capturing things in real time and on paper. Just really, she gave me such a glimpse into she held up the mirror and just everything was there. Yeah.
Again, I am virtually tapping my No Bad News tambourine. Who is a lesser known historical or contemporary Black leader who inspires you and we should learn more about?
This is another one. It's like, I hope she's okay with this answer, but I have to.
Are you about to tell my business?
No.
Are you about to tell somebody something that I only told you in conference?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Although, as I'm like, we've already talked about, we could have a show, so we'll table that though. But when I think about again, who came to mind, it was my granny. As a lesser known figure, but in the name of expanding who we see as historical, and just not all the magical milestones that we typically celebrate, but she definitely created so many magical moments for me. She's this 4'11", just tiny, dynamic powerhouse, and to see where she went from becoming a mother at 15 to being a pillar on 22nd Street in East St. Louis with her beautiful home, and working hard to buy the 2 plots next to her home to expand her garden. She had a 30+ career at the restaurant that she worked at, and how they honored her when she retired. She had this quiet, powerful faith that showed up across the neighborhood that I didn't even really know about until we had her life celebration. And I'm hearing people share stories of how she would go pray for them and go to their house. She was just, Martha Coleman is her name. And she's just this amazing, amazing woman. Always had a hug for me, cooked amazing meals for occasions, but also always had my cabbage and cornbread when I came to visit her. So, she is just so many things as far as what it means to be a dynamic Black woman and stand in your truth unapologetically, and be so classy and so sassy and so intelligent despite societal expectations, because she didn't go to college. She got pregnant at a young age and dropped out of high school. But again, her home, the extra 2 plots of land, and just being this pillar. People should know about Martha Coleman and all the other
yes, we should.
Women that are like Martha Coleman.
Yes, thank you, Miss Martha.
Yes, that's what people called her. That's so funny you said that. Yes, thank you, Miss Martha.
Yes. I was brought up in a time where we put handles on names. We didn't call people by their first names.
No. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I just, I love grandmothers. I love mine. Yes.
She was special. She was an incredible, incredible human being. My kids called her Gigi instead of great grandma. She was Gigi. Okay. So yes, and for me, she'll ever be my granny.
I love it. I love it. Oh man. Tambourine for Miss Martha.
Okay. Yes.
In addition to Golden Legacies, are there any books, films, or artworks related to Black history that you would recommend for listeners seeking to deepen their understanding of Black history?
Yeah, I touched on it, and I was like, I have to bring this up. I don't know how many people read this book. Black Poets. Okay. So this is an incredible book, and again, it's how I found Nikki Giovanni, but it does an incredible job of taking us through the history of Black American poetry, right? And then the legacies that comes through the poetry, the lives, getting privy to conversations with Gwendolyn Brooks and Langston Hughes, and you have folk poetry in there from unnamed authors that come from slavery, right? And just how we were able to carry those stories. And it just does this incredible job. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, it's 353 pages. So it has to be, at least 200 poems in this book that capture all the different ways in which we can communicate and the power in which we have in those different ways that we communicate. So I say get this and take that journey into what it is of our natural rhythm and our rebellion and our joy and our hope and our sorrow, our sass, just all of it is captured in so many poems of this book.
Thank you. That's a great recommendation. I have so many things to add to my list from all of my guests because they all brought up amazing literature, artwork, films. So I appreciate it.
Make sure you share that with us so we can.
I will. People need to watch the shows. I know I don't do a lot. Listen, y'all know that I don't do the whole marketing promotion thing. That's not my strong suit, but watch the shows. There's so much information. And all of it's evergreen. Like every guest that's been on Trap Chat, Black History Month included, any month, any episode, evergreen.
We can't get a top 5 list on LinkedIn.
Oh, I would not do that. Oh, no, don't set me up. Everyone is my top 5.
Okay, and when I said it, I was like, not a top 5. Here's my 5 for the week. Here's my 5 for the week.
There you go. Okay. Yes.
That could work, right?
Everyone that's been on Black History Month this year is in my top. Celeste McCall, my line sister Sarah Morgan, Morgan Malachi, Billy Allen, Reverend Dr. Mark Tyler, Kim Jones was last week. Let's see who else. Sean Barber is going to be on at the end, and Khalilah Lyons. I told you I was going big this year. 8 episodes was my minimum. I made it. Praise him. Okay.
Praise
again.
him.
This is about you. This is about you.
Won't he do it?
He did.
And he did. Because it's done. Listen.
Won't he did it?
Well, we could go there too, right?
Moving along. All right. How should individuals and communities actively participate in honoring and preserving Black history beyond February?
I think the key word that you said too is actively, right? When I was thinking about this question and ensuring that we don't think of Black history in terms of moments, but we started thinking about Black history in terms of what it means to have it as a lifestyle, right? Because it's not just something that we're observing once a year, but what does it mean to know that we are Black history in everything that we do, in our practices and in how we're producing and how we're living every single day. So we talk a lot about, and it's necessary, right? It's a yes and of supporting Black businesses and making sure that we read Black literature, Black art, advocating for the policies that we need to have in our communities. Absolutely. All of that is necessary, but also what does it mean in our purpose as we stand as individuals and just staying intentional about how am I creating Black history with what I do every day? How am I producing something that did not exist before? And we all have that within us. We're all equipped to do that every single day in our moments. Again, as we reimagine what a milestone is and then really take it down to how we're experiencing our moments, we can make Black history a lifestyle in everything that we do. And we can continue in every day to create something that did not exist before that does indeed matter. Our existence is evidence of that. So.
All right. Well, this is a great segue to my next question. And it's probably my least favorite question that I ask guests. It is.
But you asked it.
I ask it because it matters to other people. Like a lot. Like I just have a hate-love relationship with social media. So how do you think social media has influenced the documentation and dissemination of Black history and culture?
And it does. And as I was thinking about this, I kind of went to my love-hate relationship with Black history as well, and or social media, not Black history. I love Black history, but with social media, when I think about social media, it's really democratized our access to history, and even what that means for how we're writing Black history. So with social media, and why I do love it, is it's opened so many narratives that were hidden before. It allowed us to expand narratives and then take back the limits that were placed on us by these are the stories we feel that are worth telling, right? We're getting access and exposure to so many different stories and being able to discover and just amplify and reclaim our history, and doing it in real time, right? These everyday moments that people are having to create Black history, right? Going back to the fact that it's a lifestyle. The thing though, when we go back to, like you said, that love-hate relationship, is when we focus on social media, how are we engaging with it responsibly as well? And making sure that we're not just being passive with what we're taking in, but being intentional about what we're learning, having discernment in what we're witnessing. And as you're getting different lessons, as you're taking different things in from social media, how are you now leveraging that to be unapologetic with the action, your purpose, and what you're creating on a day-to-day basis? So when I think about social media, not just consuming it, but how we carry it forward with responsibility and with purpose. And we have so much opportunity to do that now.
Yeah. So welcome me back.
I kept talking. I did keep talking.
I know everything.
I did.
I don't know why I do that. It's like I'm trying to mute or unmute myself, and I hit and I touch on the wrong part of the screen, and I remove myself instead of.
Well, I saw you go away, and it's if you hadn't warned me, it would have been jarring. So I was like, there she goes, but I'm gonna keep going.
I was going to say something, but I'm glad. But I am trying to be a nicer person. I was going to say something related to our sorority that I was doing to you, but I'm not doing that to you because we don't do that in our organization.
No, we don't.
There you go.
So,
okay. What is your go-to songs, or music genre when you want to hype yourself up to conquer the day?
This was hard, Soror, because growing up, when I grew up, we had access to so many genres, right? Like I think about being a child growing up in East St. Louis, listening to Magic 108 FM, for anybody listening that remembers that. And I'm like, we had Miles Davis on the radio. We had Sade on the radio, same station with Ice Cube and Salt and Pepper and everything in between. So, and those have become a part of who I am. So when I saw this question, I was like, I don't know if it's even one genre versus the different playlists that I go to, depending on, like I have my juice playlist. So this is the one that's going to get me hyped depending on what I have to do. But then I have my heavy holy hitters playlist.
Okay, I need to know. You know, I love gospel music. What's on the what's your top heavy holy hitter? Yes, there you go.
My top, Angels. Let me find who it's
Watching Over Me by Richard Smallwood.
Yes.
Woo! Okay, Richard Smallwood is my favorite. Besides Hezekiah Walker, who is my favorite of all time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I love it.
Yes. Yes. But then
it.
I wanted to share, just in case anybody wants to look this up, when I think about my She Is a Warrior playlist, My Success is Inevitable by Geminelle. So I don't know if you know.
Wow.
That.
No.
That's an incredible song as well.
Okay.
So, and I could keep going. I wrote a few down, but I know we're at time, or we're getting close to time. But yes,
no, give them. Just go on.
Okay, so also I'm Grateful by Ebony Janae. So that's a very powerful. It's gospel. It has a jazz feeling. It's just real easy.
Okay.
I should have had them ready to play, but then there's Feeling Good by Nina Simone is another one for me. And as I was going through my daily playlist, because I have the one that I just go to every day, Cold Blooded by Rick James is in there because I got to remind myself,
Not Rick James.
right? I'm cold blooded.
Okay, you are the first person to mention Rick James on Trap Chat. Yes.
I'm just saying.
All right, we got a few more things before we get out of here. What is the best piece of career advice you've received that you would give to your early career self?
I got this probably in my late 20s from Michelle Merriweather. I'm probably paraphrasing, but she basically said to me, start apologizing later. Stop shrinking. Stop showing up with caveats. Own it, say it, do it. And if you need to, apologize later. So, again, I got that early 20s, but that's something that I think we need to start instilling in people because it goes back to, are you bringing these disclaimers to who you are because you feel you're not fitting someone's expectations, or are you just going to show up and claim it? Let go of the disclaimer and just claim it, right? So
yeah, that reminds me of that that quotation advice. I don't know who to attribute to, but I've heard multiple people say this, and they've said it to me. Like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Yeah,
yes,
I like that.
Yes. So and she might have said it that way too, but the way I've internalized it is just apologize later.
Apologize. I like that. Like, apologize later. Like, do it. Apologize later. I love it. Okay. So besides prioritize your purpose every day, if you wrote a book describing your career so far, what would the title be?
I had a few, of course. Answer the Moment, Reimagining Truth, Power, and Purpose. The blueprint was mine all along. I love that one.
Okay, Jay-Z.
I hadn't even thought about that. I was like, oh, that's just another B for the B list. But yes to that too. And the significance in the stillness. Because I found so many powerful moments, especially in that fertilization season, of just being still. And all of this gets to what it means to be rooted in purpose and disruption and empowerment, and how we're telling our story with a sense of ownership and in redefining joy, leadership, success, significance, all of that on our own terms. All
right. I love it. So I feel like that's an anthology, and I'm going to be looking out for.
Oh my God. It's
Okay.
That's been a demand as I've been doing things with Prioritize Your Purpose. Just how people are wanting me to come and talk about it in different ways. So yes.
Okay. So before we go, and I am, I never like to let people go, but I know y'all got other stuff to do. I haven't fully enjoyed you. Can you please share any upcoming projects or initiatives we should be on the lookout for?
Yes. So as I just kind of tiptoed around, relaunching Prioritize Your Purpose. So I'll be expanding it again, just in the name of the very real conversations and experiences that I'm having when I talk to different people, their challenges, needs that have emerged. As an example, I created it for everyone, but I've had conversations specific to leaders. I'll be soon having conversations specific to entrepreneurs. I have someone that's taken the book and he's going through it with his mentee. So just thinking about how I expand this movement, right? It's not just a book at this point, but the movement of prioritizing your purpose, especially as we think about today with so much change. What does it mean for you and your purpose? And then just getting deeper with Answer the Moment, how I'm scaling it. So I do my coaching, my speaking, my consulting, but also over the past 3.5 years of being in business, it's been 2021, 3.5 years. I've created a lot of playbooks, a lot of my workshops. So getting that on a platform where other people can have access to it, as far as courses and resources to stand in your purpose as a leader in the different pivotal moments of your organization, and having those resources to build cultures of empowerment, having those resources to be the experience of empowerment for others.
I love it. Thank you so much. And make sure that you do. Where can they follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram. I am Khalilah Lyons. And then on LinkedIn, you can just find me under Khalilah Shakir Lyons.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you do
or
that.
Sign up on my website, iamkhalilah.com.
Yes, all of those things, all three. So make sure you go do that now. And then join us for the final episode of the 2025 Black History Month Trap Chat, Trailblazing Footprints, Writing Black History Today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.